Hello, Star Trek fans, and welcome to the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we're watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 5, Episode 17, A Simple Investigation. This episode aired March 31st, 1997. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about last week's episode? Dr. Bashir, I presume?
No, it was perfect.
We had our friend Atiba Royster on, so I'm sure he would agree it was perfect.
Yes, and I have a theory. We had episodes like The Begotten, which had an F-list B story, and then we had Dr. Bashir, I assume, again, F-list B story. So I think what they could have done is taken those two B stories and put them together and had one truly appalling episode that everybody could hate.
If we could take all of the terrible B stories for a season and just cram them all into one episode and just make the A story the whole story and all the other episodes, that would be good.
Yeah, maybe somebody could do an edit in the future.
Sure. That actually would be quite funny if somebody took time to do that and put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Here are all the worst stories from season 5 or whichever season.
Yeah, all in one super episode.
We did have an extended conversation with Atiba after the recording about Strange New Worlds, which we did not record.
Yes.
We don't maybe see eye to eye on that show, and many other things.
We don't even see eye to eye on that show.
And that's for a whole other show.
And by the time this podcast gets released, Atiba will have actually been on a panel with none other than
Chase Masterson, who plays Lita.
At Comic-Con 2022.
All right, well, then maybe we should just get to talking about this episode.
Okay, I think so.
In the cold open, we have an alien in his station quarters putting something up his sleeve. He is not familiar, though he has a bit of a Cardassian forehead. And his outfit is kind of like a purple robe with a hood. Usually hoods are the bad guys on this show.
Yes.
Two bluish-green guys with very messy hair and dark clothes enter, and they tell alien number 1 that they know why he's here and who he came to meet. And then they kick him around a little, and they ask him where it is. Alien number 1 tries to pull that weapon out of his sleeve, but alien number 2 shoots and completely disintegrates him. And then he says,
yes.
I thought it was on stun. And alien number 3 points out they left behind some burn marks on the carpet, and they agree they need to try to find the woman that he was going to meet because she might know where it is.
And already we can see these two are top-level henchmen.
I thought maybe they were going to be sort of bumbling bad guys, but they weren't exactly. There was just kind of this goofy scene.
Yeah.
Now we go to Quark's, and Julian has a new holosuite program called Queen's Gambit. Dax gets to play somebody called Lady Want Some More, who, oh my God, who has been brainwashed to kill the Queen of England. And Odo has the part of a former agent who comes out of retirement to foil the assassination attempt. And Miles is supposed to play Falcon again, though he says he's tired of being the bad guy.
Yeah, I get the feeling that Julian likes to pick on Miles when it comes to these shared holo programs.
Oh, I think so, yeah. I'm sure he never lets Miles get the girl, although should Miles be getting the girl? Is this a legitimate game to be playing?
Oh, dear.
I guess that's a whole different conversation.
Now, as you haven't seen this episode before, did you think you were going to get another James Bond episode?
I did, yes, but you've told me that we weren't going to get any more of those 007 episodes, so I was like, well, what's this about?
Oh, I guess I kind of gave you spoilers there.
Well, Odo is distracted and apologizes, but he doesn't want to be a part of this after all. I wouldn't either. I mean, I don't know. Why does Julian get to be the hero all the time? This doesn't seem like any fun to me at all.
Julian is the hero in his own narrative.
He is. And why does everybody play along? I guess because he supplies the game.
Or because Dax and Miles constantly sabotage them.
Maybe. They should. Well, anyway, Odo leaves the group and he finds Quark being gross with a human-looking woman at the bar. And he does that disgusting thing of putting his pinky into some cream and licking it off. I don't understand why he does this all the time. The number of times I have seen him do this is just gross. And you're running a restaurant. It's absolutely grotesque.
I wouldn't eat at Quark's.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't after what we've seen. In his conversation with this woman, Quark claims to be observant, but the woman points out an alien with a graviton emitter is manipulating the Dabo table right under Quark's nose, and he hasn't even noticed. So that gets rid of Quark, at least.
He really isn't very good at this, is he?
No.
Just running an establishment.
No, he's not paying attention. Well, then the woman thinks that Odo is now making a play for her, which of course he isn't. He just notices that she keeps checking the door, so he wonders who she's waiting for. And then she says that Odo has bedroom eyes, and that really confuses him. He introduces himself as the head of security and tells her if she needs help, he'll be in his office. And then he awkwardly turns to leave and nearly runs into the wall. And behind her, we now see the two bluish-green aliens keeping an eye on her.
Yes.
Do we ever learn the names of those two guys? We don't, right?
I don't think so.
Should have given them names.
Derp and Derpia.
Bad hair, worse hair. In a cargo bay now, Kira notices Odo looking at his own reflection. Her hair looks great, by the way, so she should be looking at herself.
Oh, yeah.
But he tells her that a woman in Quark's bar said he had bedroom eyes, and Kira suggests maybe Odo should try to see this woman again, which Odo just really does not understand.
Yeah, he lacks self-confidence when it comes to relationships.
Yes, he does. Now we go to the security office, and the woman from earlier has been brought in for trying to break into the station's computer. She says the friend she was waiting for in Quark's never showed up, so she was just checking the passenger manifest. And when Odo says she could have just asked him, she admits that she doesn't really trust policemen. And then she rubs her neck, and we find that she has a data port behind her ear. Seems that Odo's security protocols on the computer generated some nasty feedback for her data port.
Were these in the days before they called those things cyberjacks?
Yes, I guess so. Then he asks what a nice woman like her is doing with a data port, because they tend to be used to access info others would rather not have accessed. She doesn't really answer. Eventually, we hear that story, but she doesn't really answer him right now.
Yeah.
We find that her name is Arissa, and she was here to meet alien number 1, also now known as Tauvid, because he had information on her missing daughter, who she gave up 15 years ago when she was born. Odo agrees to take her to Tauvid's quarters, where we find that he entered but never left. But inside, Odo finds the burn marks on the carpet and correctly guesses what happened to him.
Yeah, I thought they had weapons detectors on the station, and maybe some kind of weapons discharge in a quarters should set off an alarm.
I would think so. On the habitat ring, if somebody is firing weapons, we should be getting alerts.
Yeah, unless that phaser is something really special. I guess, if these guys, maybe they sprung for a good weapon. If it was their profession, you want good tools.
I think we've covered before that there are certain types of weapons that don't set off the sensors.
Yeah.
So I guess this must have been that.
Good headcanon.
Back to the security office again, and Odo wonders why someone would want to kill Tauvid, as she says there were no personal belongings in his quarters, so maybe it was a robbery, and again showing an interesting ability of observation.
Yeah.
Odo lets her go at this point since her crime was thwarted, and he says he hopes that she finds her daughter.
I thought it was interesting that Odo believed her at this point.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because Odo is so good at reading people that if it had been a con, if she was just, this was a story, that he would have been able to pick up on that? Or do you think he was just rolling the dice on this one?
I don't think we completely know if Odo thinks she's telling the truth. He just says she wasn't able to access the computer, so there's really no crime.
Yeah.
And just kind of lets her go. But then from here, he follows her, so he might not believe her already. He's just not open about it.
Odo's sort of a trust but verify kind of guy.
I think so, especially with a woman that he's interested in.
Yeah.
Essentially what happened when he first met Kira.
Oh, true. Yes.
Yeah.
She was actually guilty and pulled the wool over his eyes.
Yeah. And now we do see Arissa sneaking around the station and accessing some data from one of the computer consoles. At the same time, we see Quark trying to lock up and having to kick Morn out of the bar, I guess to tell us it's the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And then Odo catches Arissa coming out of the assay office, which I don't think we've heard about since season 1.
No, that's a throwback.
Yeah.
Well, if we're having throwbacks, can I bring up the whole bit about why does Quark's close if it's a 24-hour station? And there's people always coming and going, and I think he's missing revenue there.
Yeah, it should just be like Vegas.
Oh, yeah, precisely, exactly like Vegas. I'm guessing that maybe Quark just can't trust anyone to run it while he's not there.
I think that's probably true, especially with Rom not there. But maybe the shuttles are only coming during certain times of day, and he closes when there's, shuttle blackout or something.
Ooh, okay. So even though potentially you have 24 hours of shuttles that could be coming there and ships and other craft, the station only accepts them between certain hours. So you have to be in a holding pattern or a holding zone until you can land. Okay, I will accept that as good headcanon.
If they don't have enough staff to deal with being 24/7, then maybe they've just got, no landing periods.
There's only so many jiffies Mars can lube in a day.
That's right. Well, she says to Odo, I didn't realize I tripped an alarm. And Odo says, you didn't. You're good. But then he's like, I've been following you. I'm good too. That was cute.
I was the painting in the wall behind you.
Yeah.
Or, as you keep on saying, he should be the carpet, and then he can test anybody for being changelings.
Right, because maybe she's a changeling. We don't know.
Yep.
Well, she does turn over a tiny data crystal that she found in Tauvid's locker. It's unclear to me how she so easily got into his locker.
Yeah.
Odo examines it, saying it has a phase inverter embedded inside, making it difficult to decode. Odo is very suspicious of Arissa's story at this point, saying he could have her examined by a doctor to determine if she's ever been pregnant. I have to say that's a gross overreaction for some seemingly minor crimes at this point. Like, I'm going to force you to have a physical exam.
It is Odo, remember? He does have this...
Yeah.
What's the best way of putting it? Rather invasive law enforcement style.
Yes. He wants total lockdown.
Yeah, and if Sisko would just give him that ability, he could have peace on the station.
Right. But anyway, well, she admits there was no kid. She also says she doesn't know what's on the crystal, but she needs to find out or she's dead. So she tells Odo that she's been working for a man named Drame from the Orion Syndicate who specializes in blackmail and extortion. She accesses computers for him and steals whatever info he wants. Odo says, I hope you're well paid for this dangerous job. She says it's dangerous, but there's not much she can do about it. You can't just quit the Orion Syndicate. She came here to the station to meet Tauvid because he had information to break away from Drame free and clear. She isn't sure how he even knew that she wanted out or what info he had, and she's also not sure why she trusts him, but she does.
That was an interesting point there.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't even know why I trust him.
Well, it kind of makes her story even more suspicious, really.
Yeah. We're like, what's going on here?
Because who says that?
Yeah. Especially when she's working for a criminal organization like the Orion Syndicate.
Yes.
Which we've already determined has absolutely no compunction about blowing up Federation shuttles.
Oh, right. Yeah. From the Ascent.
Yep.
Well, she thinks Drame had Tauvid killed to stop her from getting the crystal, and whoever he hired is probably still on the station. Odo suggests putting her in protective custody until they can figure out what's on this crystal. She wonders why Odo is helping, and she asks if he's doing it out of the kindness of his heart. But he says, I don't have a heart. I like that.
I think he's missing the point of what she means there.
Totally, yeah, totally.
Even after all this time, the character of Odo can still take things very literally.
Yes. Now we go to some dark corner of the station, and the bluish-green aliens are eating Hesperat. They know Arissa is with the Changeling security chief and that they have the crystal. They want to make sure she doesn't have a chance to access it. And one of them says, she's so pretty. I was hoping we wouldn't have to kill her. But the other's like, you'll get over it. These two.
You know what I've named these two?
What?
Click and Clack.
Yeah, that's a good name for them. Now Odo takes Arissa to some quarters, but then transports her to his quarters to throw anyone off her trail. We learn Dax and Miles are trying to break into the data crystal. And Odo's been trying to figure out who Tauvid is, but he didn't leave a trail on his way to the station. Odo transmitted a picture of him to the authorities on his home planet, but hasn't had a reply yet. He says they're a secretive race, so he's not sure he will get any response.
Oh. Okay, I'm going to point out here,
Mm-hmm.
Odo went to this trouble of taking her to other quarters and transporting her, etc. He didn't do that for Kira when someone was gunning for her.
That's true. He just sent her back to her quarters on her own. It's like,
yeah.
Well, be careful.
With Big Lunk #1 security guard.
Yeah. Well, I guess the threat here is imminent because he believes the killer is on the station. He didn't believe that yet in the darkness and the light. But it's a good point. He might think, well, Kira can take care of herself to a large degree.
That's true.
Yeah.
Just give Kira a phaser and stand back. She'll handle the rest.
Right. Well, now Arissa tells Odo a sad story about using the data port on her neck to be a net girl, which basically means allowing others into her mind for money. This is a little unclear, but does not sound great. This is how she met Drame and started working for him.
So either she was an OnlyFans girl or was a booby streamer by the sound of it.
Yeah, it did remind me of the early days of the web when people would just have video cameras into their bedroom or whatever, and people would pay.
It's still going strong.
Oh, gross. That's how much I know about it. I stay out of that. Well, she says she wants out of this work, but now she's going to end up dead. And Odo says he's not going to let anyone hurt her. He suggests that she testify against Drame, but she says she'd end up dead. When she asks him why he's helping, Odo says he's done things in his life he's not proud of too. He says, "You worked for Drame, I worked for the Cardassians. I never had the courage to walk away. You did. I admire that."
So suddenly, this really does make a lot more sense.
Yep.
Odo is very much seeing her as a kindred spirit. She basically was working as a spy for Drame because she says about how she would get information from people's minds.
Yeah.
And Odo was working for the Cardassians.
Yep.
But I will say there's a slight difference here. Odo specifically, we've talked about this in the past, he talked about it, he did some good during the occupation. Do you remember when Dukat basically recruited him? He told Odo that if he didn't help, he would just do the traditional Cardassian version of justice, which is you round up a group of Bajorans, doesn't matter if they're guilty or innocent, and you just execute them. And Odo, if you like, was almost a buffer to that it wasn't great that some of the Bajorans he would have turned into the Cardassians would be killed. But if the alternative is Dukat would just randomly slaughter Bajorans, you are doing something a little bit better. Whereas Arissa was just saving her own skin, getting information for some kind of gangster.
Yeah, as far as Odo knows right now, yes.
Yeah.
But I think Odo has a lot of guilt. If we look at that episode, Things Past.
That's true.
He still is haunted by that, regardless of whatever he may have done later. That still happened.
Right. He still doesn't feel like really he has any redemption for what he had to do.
Exactly. Even though he does, if you looked in the long run.
Even if necessarily it wasn't his fault.
Well, I think he had the power to walk away, but he never did. He never made that choice.
Yeah.
Perhaps he didn't feel that he had anywhere else to go.
Oh, that's true.
He certainly could have found somewhere.
Yeah.
Or really, he's just attracted to this woman. And there's always that.
That's a very good option, yeah.
Well, when the atmosphere here in the room gets uncomfortable, Odo leaves her alone to say that he's going to check on progress with the crystal.
He does call her beautiful and then gets flustered.
Yeah, can't back it up. Well, we don't go to check on the crystal. Instead, Odo actually goes to see Bashir in his holosuite program.
Who's obviously playing Bond.
Yes.
The little gun that he has is even a Walther PPK.
Okay, I'll have to take your word for it.
It's Bond's gun in the early movies.
Well, they're supposed to be driving down a dark road, but Odo just knocks on the car window and then and sticks his head in, and then Bashir says to stop the car, which is really funny. Anyway, Odo has just come for some advice on women, which makes Bashir very interested. Seems like everyone's been chatting about the bedroom eyes comment, which is a little rude, and they're all sort of gossiping about Odo.
Odo asks Bashir about the holographic woman in the novel.
Yeah.
How did you know she'd be interested? And I loved how Bashir quickly replies, it's that type of program.
I forgot about that.
That really made me laugh.
That's how it works in here. Everyone's attracted to me.
Yes.
Bashir says that Odo has to let the woman know he's interested in her, but Odo is afraid of rejection. Julian says if you go through life trying to avoid a broken heart, you'll end up with one anyway. And that sort of describes Odo's relationship with Kira.
Yep.
We do get to see Miles in his eye patch for a moment, but this is not really the point of this episode, or really of this scene.
It was a shame because Miles, in character, pokes his gun through the window at Bashir, doing the accent and everything of Falcon, and then says, oh, hi, Odo.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny.
And then goes back in character. This is my headcanon here.
Yeah.
I have the feeling Miles and probably Dax, both of whom have the capabilities, would tweak the program or adjust it just to troll Julian.
I hope so.
Yeah, and would laugh their heads off about it.
Because otherwise they're just feeding his ego. Although I guess Julian doesn't have to allow them in either.
That's true.
He must be like, it's okay. Makes it maybe a little bit more challenging.
I would put good Dr. McCoy money on the fact those two just keep on turning up in the program, no matter what Bashir wanted.
Probably.
You know how Dax likes to torture people.
Yeah, true. And then talk about it on her podcast, Inappropriate Conversations with Jedzi and Dax.
How to break into Julian's programs.
That's funny. Well, now we go back to Odo's quarters where Arissa can't sleep. And from here, we have a bunch of awkward interactions, which just leads to them making out. And I was very distracted in this scene by Odo's makeup. I was like really examining it close up. And part of what was distracting me was like the size of his nose in his mask versus the size of the woman's nose. And it was just like, whoa, look at that. So I was really distracted by all these weird things. And then I was like looking for lines on his neck and everything. And I don't know, I was distracted.
Clearly.
Yeah.
When the point of this scene was Odo's sexy time.
Well, that's next, right? Now we're basking in the afterglow, which is very weird for Odo. He does ask the woman if he did everything right because he has not done this before. Though he does say he did something on his home world that she might consider sexual. And that's unexpected, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, not a lot more to say about this scene. She expresses concern about spending the rest of her life running from the Orion Syndicate, but otherwise it's just the two of them making out.
Yeah.
I did wonder, though, if you're so afraid of getting caught or running for the rest of your life, and as far as she knows right now, she has no ties. I mean, she was, as she said, a net girl, just trying to make ends meet. So why could you not just change your appearance? We've done it a million times. Why couldn't you change your appearance and then go to a different planet? You know, you could easily disappear anywhere in the universe, especially if you went to somewhere like Earth where you supposedly don't need money to survive. You can just go and be a busboy at Grandpa Joe's restaurant or something.
Right. And with so many worlds, finding someone out of the way who would do a face change or modify your appearance.
Yeah.
And no one would know would be relatively easy.
Yeah, I kind of wish we hadn't established that it was so easy to change your appearance because it makes stuff like this seem so strange. It's like there's an easy solution here and the universe is vast.
Right.
So I would think you could disappear if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, now we go to Ops where Kira and Dax are gossiping about Odo's girlfriend. Well, by the way, why do they know that? Because he took her into her own quarters and then transported them to Odo's quarters. Nobody should know that. If people know it, then you're not being very secretive.
Yeah.
It's not secure, exactly. Well, Worf is either trying to listen to this gossip or disapproving from a distance. I'm not sure which.
I'm going with he's trying to listen to it.
I think so, but he's also being incredibly annoying as he disapproves of his girlfriend's behavior again, and he does it very publicly, which I just would not put up with. But anyway, she can talk about that on her podcast. So Cisco comes out of his office looking for Odo, and he's very interested when Dax says Odo spent the night with a woman. He's like, oh, this is the trouble with living where you work. Everyone knows too much. I would not appreciate that much detail about me going around.
No, you definitely wouldn't.
I'm well known for saying it, but I don't like people looking at me and knowing things. And that would be an exact example of that.
Well, even worse, Dax would have it on the podcast.
Oh, for sure. Well, anyway, in comes Odo, and everyone tries to act cool like they haven't been talking about him for the last 20 minutes. In the meantime, we see Arissa is transmitting a message to Drame saying, let's talk. But we've never heard another character's name so many times without actually ever seeing this character of Drame.
Yes. This is the point where I kind of like the misdirection.
Yeah.
Because it makes you think, is she genuine? Has anything she said to this point actually true? Is she trying to make a deal with Drame to just get out of the situation she's in? Yeah,
because you don't know. You never know when you have new characters who appear.
Right.
You're always wondering, are they lying to the heroes or what's going on?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
Now we go to the blue-green aliens, and we learn that Arissa made a deal with Drame of the crystal for her freedom. But the plan is to kill her anyway when she turns over the crystal.
Considering how well she knows Drame, I'm surprised she thought the deal would actually work.
Yeah. I guess we're supposed to think that conversation she was having with Odo, where she said she didn't want to be running for her whole life, was moving enough to her for her to try to make a deal and get herself out of it.
Yeah.
But really, she should have trusted Odo. The only person really who's looking after her. But at the same time, maybe she didn't want to have somebody looking after her and she just wanted to find a way out.
Gotcha.
It didn't seem terribly smart.
No, it didn't.
In the security office, an alien who looks like Tovid, or alien number 1 from this episode, enters. This is an Idanian responding to Odo's earlier communication. He asks if Arissa is safe, and we learn that she's an undercover intelligence agent with the Idanian government. She was sent to infiltrate Drame's organization. She doesn't even know that's who she is. Her previous memories were removed and put into that mysterious data crystal, and she was given a new identity.
That is like the ultimate in an undercover operation.
Yes, it is.
She's not even the same person that she was.
And she doesn't even know it.
Awesome. So, do you think this guy is a Sith or a Jedi with the way his robes
Yeah,
go?
with the hood.
Yeah. I was looking at him thinking, yeah, check for a lightsaber here.
Yeah. I love how when we meet a new race and everybody, like from the entire planet, wears the same thing. That cracks me up.
It does cut down on the costuming budget.
Yes. Off we go to find Arissa, but in the lab, they find Miles on the floor. We don't explain how Arissa manages to knock out Miles, but Arissa and the data crystal are missing. And the Idanian dude has some kind of scanner that he says he can use to find the crystal. So down in the cargo bay now, with Click and Clack, Arissa comes in looking for them. One of them is hiding behind some barrels with his phaser ready, and she doesn't really think about the fact that that could be happening.
No, she doesn't seem to have the big picture or be the smartest of individuals.
But she should, because they make those hints that she has some echoes of her intelligence background, right? Like when she sees that guy at Quark's playing the Dabo table, and then later when she notices that Tauvid's quarters were empty, she's got these little hints that she is smart at something. But then she does this, and she walks into this place where there's clearly 100 places somebody could be hiding, and she doesn't even think of it. Like, you should have met him in Quark's.
I will address this in overanalysis.
Oh, okay. Now Odo and the hooded guy are searching, and he says the crystal's quantum signature starts to fade after a few minutes. I was like, a few minutes of after what? I mean, either it has a signature or it doesn't. Does it have an on button? Why would it fade? I would have understood distance.
Oh, because it was a plot device.
Yeah, that made no sense. Well, anyway, down in the cargo bay, or wherever Click and Clack and Arissa are.
I'm pretty sure it was a cargo bay.
The bluish-green guy, one of them, shows that he's not armed. So Arissa then goes to hand over the crystal, but of course what she doesn't know is that there's another blue-green guy hiding with a phaser, and the armed guy comes out, and he doesn't shoot right away. Classic mistake.
Always a mistake. When you gotta shoot.
Just shoot. And then suddenly all the doors open and Odo drops out of the sky onto the unarmed guy. I don't know why he didn't drop onto the armed guy.
That would make more sense, yeah.
But eventually all of the bad guys get knocked out with a surprising lack of shapeshifting. And Arissa gets the crystal back.
They did continue the kind of bumbling nature of these two, because the other henchman was like adjusting his phaser when they showed him hiding behind one of the boxes or whatever in the cargo bay. Yeah. Because at the beginning, we got that whole bit where he has it on too high and just disintegrates the guy. So I think it's continuing that theme that these two maybe aren't the top tier.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now we're in the infirmary, and Bashir is doing a memory transfer from the crystal to Arissa. She's been undercover for 2 years with no memory of her real life. Drame employs telepaths, so going undercover forces these extreme situations.
Yep.
Arissa was left in place long enough to become a trusted member of the organization, and when they were ready to recall her, they had Tauvid make contact. Arissa had an imprinted trace memory that was designed to make her trust Tauvid, so that explains that.
Nice.
And apparently, they think what she knows is enough to cripple Drame's organization. So this intelligence agent is very happy with the success of her mission.
Yeah.
Well, with the memory transfer now complete, Bashir says he's going to take her to surgery.
So she was physically altered as well.
Why would Bashir be the one to do this surgery? Why wouldn't they just send her back home? I didn't get that either.
Well, maybe the guy came with instructions.
Yeah, okay. We only did it so that now in the next scene, the real Arissa could come in.
Yes.
Although we don't know her name. We learn that's not really her name, but we don't learn what her real name is. But she comes in now with her own purple hood because we only have one outfit on this planet.
Do you think they share the same headgear so they can further reduce the budget for the costumes?
Oh, yeah, because we only see one hooded person on the screen at a time.
Yeah.
So there's only one hood. It's got Velcro on the back. Well, it turns out Arissa not only looks different, she's also married.
Wow, Odo really knows how to pick him, doesn't he?
Why would you take a 2-year undercover operation when you have a husband? But anyway, I guess that's up to them. She apologizes to Odo, but he says it's not her fault he fell in love with a woman who never really existed.
Oh,
that's so sad.
Hey, he could talk to Cisco about it. Cisco did exactly the same thing.
Oh, that's true.
The woman in red.
That was that episode called Second Sight.
Yes.
From season 2? It was definitely an early one.
With the guy with the largest ego in the known universe.
And we've had some egos.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Arissa says she really did exist, and she loved him. And in a way, she still does. Aw. And then they hug, and she says she'll never forget him. The end.
Oh, Odo has loved and lost.
Yes, but at least he did.
That's true.
So, what is your over-analysis?
Okay, let's start off with some of the basic things. Firstly, when you're a member of a well-respected, successful crime syndicate, why do you employ the real bottom-of-the-barrel guys to do your dirty work? Especially when it's something really important like this. Did he get these guys off Craigslist?
Well, why would Drame know that that's what was going on? Or did he just send them after her in general because she had left him? Did he really know that she was an undercover agent and that crystal had her memories on it? Or did they just think it was something she had stolen or whatever?
I assume that it was something like he intercepted communications with her and the crystal got brought up and then she left without permission from the crime lord. And that's why he sent them after her.
I guess he could have intercepted the communication with Tauvid because they did have to communicate.
Yeah.
But he maybe didn't know anything else, just that she was trying to get out and that this guy had something.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe nobody knew because they didn't have to for the story to play out. I guess that's my point of why he sent the B guys, just like, just go get her and go get that thing, whatever it is.
You know, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Drame didn't know what any of it was, that she was undercover. He had no idea. So looking at it with that additional perspective that he thought this was just, maybe some crappy deal. She was trying to get something to get out of the organization. That makes a lot more sense that he thought it was lower priority.
Yeah.
Because we've previously seen, as I mentioned, the Orion Syndicate planting bombs on Federation ships that couldn't be detected. So they got some A-listers on there.
Yeah, these two guys did not do that.
Right. So that's a good point. Yeah. He underestimated the importance of this mission to send these guys.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good headcanon there, Kim.
Thank you.
The next one.
Yeah.
You mentioned this, that Arissa can make very bad decisions.
Yeah.
And doesn't seem that smart. I assume all of that is part of the programming. If they're erasing her memory, let's say this race has technology that can do that and can implant a new personality into people with some of these trigger memories. They would set the character as a particular type. Maybe too trusting, doesn't think things all the way through, acts impulsively. So it gives someone that the telepaths that Drame uses would read in a particular way and would behave in a way that maybe Drame would expect for somebody who works for him.
Yeah.
So could get into the organization, even though the personality of the actual real agent might come through occasionally.
Yeah. Brains aren't about personality. So, how would they suppress the fact that she was pretty smart as an agent?
Yeah.
Or maybe she's not. I don't know. She seemed to have some powers of observation, but then other times not. And maybe they're like, yeah, let's send her out. We'll be all right if she doesn't come back.
Find someone who'll volunteer for anything.
Yeah, we're just assuming she was smart. Yeah. Okay. Maybe she wasn't.
That's a good take.
Yeah.
Next point.
Yeah.
Back to Click and Clack.
Yeah.
I made an assumption here. I assume they stowed away on a vessel or had some way of getting onto the station so Odo and security wouldn't know about them. Because I would imagine these guys have some kind of record or they brought a weapon on board that it would trigger Odo or he'd be suspicious. Or they have really good fake credentials. But the fact that they were sort of skulking around a lot, like in the cargo bay and things, to me points at maybe they had some unauthorized way of getting on the station.
Yeah, They were just sitting in Quarks in that one scene, though.
Yeah.
But I did wonder if maybe they obtained the weapon somehow after they got to the station.
Ooh.
Maybe they have agents as part, I don't know, would you call it an agent?
An associate of the Orion Syndicate.
Associates from the Orion Syndicate living on the station.
I did not consider that one.
Some kind of arms dealer on the station or something.
Because I would consider Odo would be like on them like a ton of bricks.
Yes, because we have many examples of where Odo has noticed that, like in season 1, right? The people coming in, he's got all this information about them.
Yeah.
And so, and these two, he didn't even know they were there. So maybe they're also disguised. Maybe they're not even blue-green. They've got some fake identities.
Oh, I wonder if Odo is just kind of distracted by a love interest.
I guess that's the implication.
Yeah.
What episode was that where somebody was trying to distract Odo?
Yeah. Yeah, and Odo's been distracted in the past. Like when Shakar and Kira started dating.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he almost let them all get killed in the elevator because he was distracted by relationship stuff.
Solid stuff.
Yes. The stuff of solids.
And that, I think, is the end of my overanalysis because there isn't a huge amount to analyze in this one.
No.
We don't want to get into the mechanics of Odo and Arissa.
No.
So I will pass over to you.
I'm starting to think that Odo's not reading the right kind of novels. Like, maybe he should be reading young adult novels. Because he's still, he's so new to relationships.
Yeah.
He needs to read some of those kinds of stories rather than whatever he is reading, because he doesn't seem to really be learning anything from the stories he is reading.
That's true. Yeah, and Julian's holo programs are probably the worst place to learn relationships from.
Oh, for sure. Did you get a little vibe from this where there are a limited number of female characters or stereotypes that are used in stories?
Oh, you mean the classic Hollywood, they're either the maiden, the mother, or the hooker.
Yeah, or always the victim.
Yes, and you can throw the victim into any one of those categories.
Because she was sort of all of those things.
Yeah.
And in the end, then they put her in that outfit with the hood, and she sort of looked like a nun. And the way that they lit her, I was like, oh, we've circled back around now to her being the virginal character in some weird way.
Oh my gosh. I did not pick up on that. That is kind of crazy.
It's just this sort of lack of layers with the characters that we bring in. I get you've only got 46 minutes, and they were sort of trying to give her some layers, but I don't know, just making her a brain prostitute or whatever she was, that just wasn't quite enough for me. But anyway, the only thing I wrote down in overanalysis was Odo fell in love really quickly, and he did it with somebody who basically gave him one compliment. And I don't know, is bedroom eyes, is that really a compliment? But gave him one compliment, and then he just sort of fell apart, which is why I think he should be reading young adult novels, because he's got to learn some of that stuff. But it just seemed really quick.
But he's very emotionally immature. And I think he did maybe think she was beautiful, that she was attractive to him. He can appreciate beauty.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know, maybe she was. But I guess we've seen Dax fall in love in 2 seconds, too, so it's not that abnormal.
Yeah, and be willing to spend the next 75 years with the guy after 20 minutes of the episode.
Yeah.
It's because that race had, those stripings and the patterns. I think the Trill are just attracted to those kind of patterns.
Apparently. Well, that's all I have in overanalysis, so I will just go to women in the future. I don't know, was this a good episode for women in the future? I'm glad she was a secret agent and not really the character that she thought she was.
Right.
But it felt kind of silly that she would be married and yet she would put herself into a situation where she's a mind prostitute. And apparently those memories are going to stay with her because she seems able to remember what happened while she was undercover.
Can I give you some headcanon here?
Yeah.
You just made me think of this.
Yeah.
You pointed out how at the end she looked almost like a nun.
Yeah.
And this guy with this other covering on his head could look like a monk or a religious figure.
Yeah.
Perhaps they see law enforcement or the defense of their race as almost a religious type of calling. So there's nothing that's out of the norm here. if this mission requires it, if for the greater good of my people and their stability and the rest of it, I have to do this, then there's no question about it. For the people who are following this path of law enforcement or secret agents or whatever. So the hint here with them looking almost quasi-religious shows that's how they view it on this world. Because Odo also says how they're a secretive people.
Well, that really is some headcanon. You've developed like a whole religion for these three characters. That's funny. I mean, look, maybe, yeah, your headcanon is second to no one. I almost felt like maybe they made her married just as a hand wave to give her an excuse to have to break away from Odo. Yeah. I mean, it might not have even been true. She may have just said it to sever that relationship.
Interesting, yeah.
I do feel like they could have written her better, but I guess I always sort of complain about that, so it's just like kind of a generic gripe. I guess here's my problem.
Yeah.
We had a female character. She's immediately harassed at the bar by Quark. She comes on to Odo, and then we learn she's a prostitute. I mean...
It's a little bit of a Hollywood trope, yes.
We can do better. We can do better than that. And it wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't always like this. If we would, not fall into these stereotypes all the time. Well, then there's the trope of the women gossiping in ops. I mean, that's kind of boring, but the best part of that scene was when Sisko was really interested in Odo having a girlfriend. That sort of relieved that scene a little bit, I thought. But we've known since season 1 that he loves love, right? He's always been into that, especially for Odo. He was the one really interested in that episode the first episode with Luoxana and Odo.
Yeah.
But that's it for Women in the Future. Not great. So let's go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
My rating on this one is kind of tough because the episode, yes, it had some flaws and it felt to me very rushed.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like I give it a thumbs up because I like the genre of this type of story. There've been a number of stories where we've had this as the base of a secret agent who doesn't know really what they are. And I kind of enjoy that trope.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me to an extent of things like A Scanner Darkly, which hadn't even been made at this point. The book had been written, but the movie hadn't been made. I loved the movie and other stories in that vein. So I'm going with a thumbs up because I enjoy the genre. Even if this episode wasn't particularly outstanding, it was enjoyable.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit I guess.
Yeah.
On this episode, but there was some good stuff in it. Rene Auberjonois, his acting was great. He's really good as this character. I guess at this point, he's really figured the character out, and he's pretty consistent.
Yes.
And I did think he did a good job. I didn't think the actress playing Arissa was particularly great. She wasn't very emotional. I guess until the very last scene with her, then you sort of saw that she had an emotional side. And maybe that had been, you could headcanon your way to say, oh no, they had to work that out. She couldn't just be an emotional wreck. She needed to be able to always keep her head, and that was part of the undercoverness of her character. So I didn't think it was a bad episode. I just think it had some faults. And so I'll give it a thumbs up as well. Yeah,
that's pretty much my summary of the episode as well.
Like if it came on, I wouldn't mind watching it again.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't seek it out. Because that's my summary.
This is an episode I have not watched more than a couple of times. I don't think it had a lot of impact on me.
Sure.
Maybe it was the subject, and maybe it's because other things do this storyline so much better. So,
yeah.
But overall, I enjoyed watching it.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up season 5, episode 17. Come back next week for episode 18. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own overanalysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at ReBingeIT@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at ReBingeIT. We're also on Instagram and YouTube at ReBingeIT. You can check us out on TalkThroughMedia.com. You can leave feedback there for individual episodes, and you can also listen to all of the other Star Trek podcasts on our network.
Thanks for joining us on the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.